Hey YouTube, I hope everyone is doing well. This is Rudy. Hey, today I'm just going to read a chapter from Alan Greenspan. It may be very boring to some of you, and that's fine. If you're not interested in the topic or you already know about it, then it's not the video for you. But, you know, if we don't understand the relationship between the Federal Reserve, gold, and an honest money system, and evil people, there's like a relationship that goes on between those entities. You know, we're never going to restore this country back to the principles that the Founding Fathers intended. The Founding Fathers never intended for government officials to have an unlimited money supply to propagate their evil agenda. And if you feel overwhelmed at times by all of the evil that you see in the world, because there's certainly a lot of it, I would offer that there is a silver bullet to restore righteousness to the world and even to America, and that is to get rid of the Federal Reserve. Not to audit it. You don't hand Satan a speeding ticket. You abolish Satan. You abolish the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is the single most evil institution on the whole planet, bar none. If you got rid of that and you got rid of Satan's ability to have an unlimited money supply to propagate his evil agenda, the world would go through a period of turmoil for a while as we went back to an honest money system based upon gold and silver. But then as we returned to a righteous money system where the true producers and achievers earned their true wealth, as opposed to moochers, looters, and bootlickers in Washington, the world would return to a sense of righteousness. And I'm going to read a chapter written by Alan Greenspan. This was written by Alan Greenspan when he worked for Ayn Rand. And the book that I'm going to read from is called Ayn Rand, Capitalism, the Unknown Ideal. It's going to be a very boring thing if you're not interested in this sort of thing. But I feel like I need to capture it, and it's probably going to take me more than a 15-minute period, so it may be a full 30 minutes. But I want to capture what Alan Greenspan wrote in this book on a YouTube video so that it will be more likely to be disseminated. And so I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it very slowly, and you know, he had some very important things to say about gold, economic freedom, fiat money. And this was before he turned into Darth Vader and sold out. See, every man sells out, has the ability to sell out, has the potential to sell out. Not every man sells out. Pastor James David Manning is not a sellout. Glenn Beck is a sellout. Bill O'Reilly is a sellout. Alan Greenspan is a sellout. Alan Greenspan is a huge traitor to our country and to the world. But here's what he wrote before he became a sellout. Gold and Economic Freedom by Alan Greenspan. An almost hysterical antagonism toward the gold standard is one issue which unites statists of all persuasions. Statist is someone who believes that the government and the state should take care of the people from cradle to grave. They seem to sense, perhaps more clearly and subtly than many consistent defenders of laissez-faire, that gold and economic freedom are inseparable, that the gold standard is an instrument of laissez-faire, and that each implies and requires the other. Laissez-faire is hands-off government. Laissez-faire is for the freedom of the individual to live his life as he chooses. It's for the freedom of the human spirit. And laissez-faire is where the government is small and it's hands off the people. The government is a servant of the people. So he's writing an article that's in favor of small government that's hands off. In order to understand the source of their antagonism, it is necessary first to understand the specific role of gold in a free society. Money is the common denominator of all economic transactions. It is that commodity which serves as a medium of exchange, is universally acceptable to all participants in an exchange economy as payment for their goods or services, and can therefore be used as a standard of market value and as a store of value, i.e. as a means of saving. The existence of such a commodity is a precondition of a division of labor economy. If men did not have some commodity of objective value, which was generally acceptable as money, they would have to resort to a primitive barter or be forced to live on self-sufficient farms and forego the inestimable advantages of specialization. If men had no means to store value, to save, neither long-range planning nor exchange would be possible. What medium of exchange will be acceptable to all participants in an economy is not determined arbitrarily. First, the medium of exchange should be durable. In a primitive society of meager wealth, wheat might be sufficiently durable to serve as a medium, since all exchanges would occur only during and immediately after the harvest, leaving no value surplus to store. But where the store of value considerations are important, as they are in richer, more civilized societies, the medium of exchange must be a durable commodity, usually a metal. A metal is generally chosen because it is homogeneous and divisible. Every unit is the same as every other, and it can be blended or formed in any quantity. Precious jewels, for example, are neither homogeneous nor divisible. More important, the commodity chosen as a medium must be a luxury. Human desires for luxuries are unlimited, and therefore luxury goods are always in demand and will always be acceptable. Wheat is a luxury in underfed civilizations, but not in a prosperous society. Cigarettes ordinarily would not serve as money, but they did in post-World War II Europe, where they were considered a luxury. The term luxury good implies scarcity and a high unit value. Having a high unit value, such a good is easily portable. For instance, an ounce of gold is worth half a ton of pig iron. In the early stages of developing money economy, several media of exchange might be used, since a wide variety of commodities would fulfill the foregoing conditions. However, one of the commodities will gradually displace all others by being more widely acceptable. Preferences on what to hold as a store of value will shift to the most widely acceptable commodity, which in turn will make it still more acceptable. The shift is progressive until that commodity becomes the sole medium of exchange. The use of a single medium is highly advantageous for the same reasons that a money economy is superior to a barter economy. It makes exchanges possible on an incalculably wider scale. Whether the single medium is gold, silver, seashells, cattle, or tobacco is optional, depending on the context and development of a given economy. In fact, all have been employed at various times as media of exchange. Even in the present century, two major commodities, gold and silver, have been used as international media of exchange, with gold becoming the predominant one. Gold having both artistic and functional uses and being relatively scarce, has always been considered a luxury good. It is durable, portable, homogeneous, divisible, and therefore has significant advantages over all other media of exchange. Since the beginning of World War I, it has been virtually the sole international standard of exchange. If all goods and services were paid for in gold, large payments would be difficult to execute, and this would tend to limit the extent of a society's division of labor and specialization. Thus, a logical extension of the creation of a medium of exchange is the development of a banking system and credit instruments, banknotes and deposits, which act as a substitute for but are convertible into gold. A free banking system based on gold is able to extend credit and thus to create banknotes, currency, and deposits according to the production requirements of the economy. Individual owners of gold are induced by payments of interest to deposit their gold in a bank, against which they can draw checks. But since it is rarely the case that all depositors want to withdraw all their gold at the same time, the banker need keep only a fraction of his total deposits in gold as reserves. This enables the banker to loan out more than the amount of his gold deposits. which means that he holds claim to gold rather than gold as a security for his deposits. But the amount of loans which can afford to make is not arbitrary. He has to gauge it in relation to his reserves and to the status of his investments. When banks loan money to finance productive and profitable endeavors, the loans are paid off rapidly and bank credit continues to be generally available. But when the business ventures financed by bank credit are less profitable and slow to pay off, the bankers soon find that their loans outstanding are excessive relative to their gold reserves, and they begin to curtail new lending, usually by charging higher interest rates. This tends to restrict the financing of new ventures and requires the existing borrowers to improve their profitability before they can obtain credit for further expansions. Thus, under the gold standard, a free banking system stands as the protector of an economy's stability and balanced growth. When gold is accepted as a medium of exchange by most or all nations, an unhampered, free international gold standard serves to foster a worldwide division of labor and the broadest international trade. Even though the units of exchange, the dollar, the pound, the franc, etc., differ from country to country, when all are defined in terms of the gold economies, when all are defined in terms of gold, the economies of different countries act as one, so long as they are not restraints on trade or on the movement of capital. Credit, interest rates, and prices tend to follow similar patterns in all countries. For example, if banks in one country extend credit too liberally, interest rates in that country will tend to fall, inducing depositors to shift their gold to higher interest paying banks in other countries. This will immediately cause a shortage of the bank reserves in the easy money country, inducing tighter credit standards and a return to competitively higher interest rates again. A fully free banking system and fully consistent gold standard have not as yet been achieved. But prior to World War I, the banking system in the United States and in most of the world was based on gold, and even though governments intervened occasionally, banking was more free than controlled. Periodically, as a result of overly rapid credit expansion, banks became loaned up to the limit of their gold reserves, interest rates rose sharply, new credit was cut off, and the economy went into a sharp but short-lived recession. Compared with the Depression of 1920 and 1932, the pre-World War I business declines were mild indeed. It was limited gold reserves that stopped the unbalanced expansion of business activity. Therefore, they could develop into the post-World War I type of disaster. The readjustment periods were short, and the economies quickly reestablished a sound basis to resume expansion. But the process of cure was misdiagnosed as the disease. If shortage of bank reserves was causing a business decline, argued economic interventionists, why not find a way of supplying increased reserves to the banks so they never need to be short? If banks can continue to loan money indefinitely, it was claimed, there never need to be any slumps in business. And so the Federal Reserve was organized in 1913. Wow. Okay, that's a good place to stop. Satan came into existence in 1913. Let me stop the camera and start again.